Whenever we talk about iconic Formula One moments, one that often goes under the radar is Felipe Massa's podium celebration in Brazil 2008. 39 seconds is what stood between him and his first world title. With Interlagos being known for its unpredictable and rapid changes in weather, Massa and Ferrari were required to be extremely adaptable if they wanted to emerge victorious, and they were. The Brazilian drove majestically throughout the 71 laps of the Grand Prix, winning the race by 13 seconds ahead of Renault's Fernando Alonso. But it wasn't enough. As the rain started to fall harder towards the end, everyone was faced with one of two decisions: either pit for wet tyres to secure a safe finish, or brave it out on slicks and pray for no more rainfall. All of the frontrunners opted for the former, bar one, Timo Glock, meaning the outcome of the 2008 World Championship fell on the shoulders of Mother Nature. And destiny just so happened to be that Lewis Hamilton would win his first world title in front of thousands of heartbroken Brazilian fans. The way Felipe handled the defeat was nothing but class and excellence, one worthy of a champion. But in recent weeks, news has revealed that Massa wants to turn that championship status into a reality, with the point of discourse centered around one of the biggest scandals in sports history, Crashgate. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the entire timeline of events that occurred, but most of you watching know what happened. Alonso starts 15th and comes into the pits early for a planned stop on lap 12. His teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. conveniently crashes 2 laps later and brings out the safety car, gifting the Spaniard the lead of the race. In addition to this, when the pit lane was reopened, the leaders decided to come into the pits, but Massa's stop was a catastrophe. Ferrari's lighting system indicated that Felipe was free to pull away, but the fuel hose was still attached. He also came out directly into the path of Adrian Sutil, costing him valuable lap time and a drive-through penalty. It could have easily been his 6th victory and a 1-point lead at that point in the season, but instead, he ended up 13th with a 7-point deficit going into Japan. Massa's reasoning for wanting to appeal the legitimacy of the 2008 title was founded upon comments made by none other than Bernie Ecclestone, who claimed that the FIA knew about the Renault cheating accusations before the award ceremony for the championship had taken place, meaning they should have done something to correct the result. One would have thought that the fairest way to obtain justice is disqualify Renault from the race, which would result in Hamilton winning the title by a bigger margin than before. However, Bernie recalled that since him and FIA president at the time Max Mosley knew about the situation during 2008, they had enough time to investigate the matter, meaning they should have cancelled the whole race. Well, that's interesting to know, but it's inconsistent with comments Mosley himself made around 10 years ago. In his autobiography released in 2015, he states that he first heard about the cheating accusations in early 2009. But during an interview with Sky back in 2013, he said that former race director Charlie Whiting informed him about what happened, quote, before 2009, but there was no proof nor evidence to investigate upon. So the truth regarding the exact dates they were informed about Crashgate is very murky, which in and of itself makes an investigation pretty baseless. Massa's success in taking this legal route depends heavily upon this fact, and since Mosley and Whiting are no longer around to confirm or deny, how the hell do we know who's right and who's not? Secondly, Ecclestone said that under the regs at the time, they should have cancelled the race. But since this wasn't done 4 days prior to the FIA award ceremony, they couldn't do anything about it. But after searching through the 2008 sporting regs and the International Sporting Code, I, for the life of me, couldn't find anywhere that scenario was possible. According to Articles 152 and 153 of the ISC, the stewards had the power to exclude a driver or team from a race, sentence them to a suspension, or disqualify them from the championship. But nothing is said about voiding a race. The only grounds they could have done that under were in the event of force majeure or for safety reasons, and Crashgate didn't fall under either of those things. What this sounds like to me is a case of history revisionism. People like Ecclestone are conjuring up a reinterpretation of past accounts to suit their agenda. Think about it. Erasing the result of a race from history would effectively be disqualifying everyone for the wrongdoing of a single team, which is nonsensical. Given Bernie's recent takes though, it doesn't surprise me that he's saying this. He leapt to the defense of Piquet Sr. when the Brazilian used the N-word when referring to Lewis Hamilton. This is the same man who also defended Putin for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Clearly, he's not mentally very stable at the moment, so I'm not surprised at his sentiments about 2008. But what I'm more surprised at is how seriously some people are taking it, Massa included. Crashgate wasn't even the cause of his mishap during the Singapore Grand Prix. It was the fuel hose getting stuck during his pit stop. That had nothing to do with the controversy and was purely an unforced error. And while we're on that topic, let's not forget the slip-ups that cost him valuable points, most notably Australia, Silverstone, Sepang, and Japan. On the balance of it, I'd say that he was slightly less error-prone than his rival, but also had the superior package, one that was faster, but not as reliable. The first 2 races of the season cost him dearly. Even though he suffered an engine failure in Australia, he was having a nightmare of a race before then. And in Malaysia, he spun coming out of the double right-hander of 7 and 8, beaching his car in the gravel trap. Those 2 key moments alone could have won him the title. Silverstone, he spent more time facing oncoming cars than actually driving in the right direction. And in Japan, he drove straight into his rival, costing him a drive-through penalty. But let's also remember that Lewis had his fair share of bozo moments. For example, running into the back of Alonso in Bahrain and running into the back of Raikkonen in Canada. He also lost points in France when he was given a drive-through for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And the scuffle with Felipe in Japan shouldn't have occurred had he not gotten desperate at the start of the race. So it's fair to say that in terms of driver errors, they were pretty equal. If not, Hamilton's were a bit more costly. But in terms of factors outside of their control, Lewis only really suffered some bad pit stops and a puncture in Hungary. However, for Massa, it was a very different story. He lost a potential 20 points as he retired with an engine failure while leading in Hungary, and the light signal malfunctioning in Singapore cost him what would have been a comfortable victory. Therefore, one could say that his luck of the draw was worse than Hamilton's. But that's how it goes in racing. Unreliability and team errors play just as big a role in the outcome of a championship as the drivers do, if not bigger. Now when it comes to errors made by the stewards, that's a different story. And Spa was a prime example of that. Massa was effectively gifted a win at the expense of the FIA penalising Hamilton for apparently gaining an advantage at the bus stop chicane. In reality though, he was forced off track, rejoined safely, and gave back the position before passing Kimi again at La Source. And even if Felipe somehow managed to win the 08 title in court, it will undoubtedly set a very dangerous precedent. Can the Senna family now sue to get the 1989 championship overturned? What about Damon Hill and the 94 title? I'm sure nothing will come out of it, and at most, Massa will probably find out exactly when the FIA knew about Crashgate, which, I don't know, might be nice for his conscience, but Hamilton will still remain a 7-time champion. But more than anything else, I think the reason this story has gotten so much attention is to attempt to tarnish Lewis's legacy. I'm sure Felipe could have quietly pursued it by himself without the media creating a mountain out of a molehill, which they often do. I've already seen many articles trying to compare what happened in 2008 to Abu Dhabi 2 years ago, but the two aren't remotely similar. It's well understood by most now that the procedure wasn't followed in Abu Dhabi, and had they been, Lewis would have won an 8th world title. This was a direct result caused by the officiators themselves and not by another team on the grid. So that's one difference. Secondly, the transgressions of 2021 occurred on the final lap of the race, whereas in 2008, there were still 3 races to go. This would have changed the approach of not just McLaren, but pretty much every team on the grid. Completely voiding a race from the history books would have meant that, at the time, McLaren might have taken more risks, and Ferrari could have become more conservative. Basically, a multitude of alternate realities could have played out that would have affected the championship outcome in a very different way. Trying to untangle all of that would be impossible, unless they took all the cars out of the museum, unretire everyone who competed, bar Alonso and Hamilton, and redo those last 3 races. So, in summary, there's nothing illegitimate about the result of the 2008 world title. Hamilton was, and still is, the rightful champion, no matter what anybody says. At most, Renault should be disqualified from the race, and Rosberg's first win comes 4 years earlier. Massa drove phenomenally well across the season and put up a tremendous fight, but in the end, sadly, things just didn't go his way. I hope you all enjoyed. I know I was pretty late on this topic, but it's because I've been busy with other projects that I've been working on. But hopefully you guys still have some perspectives you want to share. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to get my latest videos in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.